I hate to break it to you, but what people call love is just a chemical reaction that compels animals to breed.
That is the biggest lie in television history. Rick Sanchez himself doesn't even believe a word of it. If love were just biology, he wouldn't have spent 20 years hunting a ghost across the multiverse to avenge his dead wife. If people were just about the chemicals, he wouldn't have tried to end his life the second Unity walked away. Today, I'm putting Rick Sanchez on trial to uncover the reason why the smartest man in the multiverse is just incapable of finding love. To chalk up Rick's inability to love to just nihilism would be a disservice to his character. He is a nihilist, sure, but he's also a liar. The truth is that he's terrified of love. For the smartest man in existence, love is the only equation he can't solve. It's the one glitch in his godhood. He can rewrite the laws of physics, but he can't hold on to the one thing every stupid person around him has: a meaningful, loving connection with a partner. So, why? You can blame the alcoholism. You can blame the trauma of watching his original family vaporize in a garage. There is no universe where Rick can portal gun his way back into Diane's arms. She's the one thing in the infinite multiverse that he can't replace, and that's devastating. But grief doesn't make you build a wall around every universe where you're the smartest being alive and no one else can join you. So is it really his narcissism? Not really, because when the timeline is fracturing, Rick gives Morty his own life-saving collar. He accepts his own death with the words,
I'm okay with this. Be good, Morty. Be better than me.
A true narcissist would never do that. It's been proven over and over again that Rick really does love his family. But there is one singular devastating reason why Rick Sanchez is mathematically destined to be alone. A reason that makes his genius his ultimate prison. It's the curse of mastery. It's his superiority complex.
I'm a fucking god now!
But Rick wasn't born this way. Before the show, Rick C-137 was a genius scientist, but also a loving husband and father. He was offered the power of interdimensional travel by another version of himself.
You think it's cool being the smartest man on Earth, but once we give you this technology, you become the smartest thing in every conceivable universe. The infinite Rick. A god. Pass.
And that choice got them killed. The version of himself who had already chosen power over family sent a bomb through a portal and took everything from him. So Rick made a vow that no one would ever have that power over him again. He built the portal gun. He hunted his wife's killer across infinity. He became what he didn't want for revenge. The smartest man in every conceivable universe, a god, because being human got his family murdered. By never wanting another to have that power over him again, it means that he could never have a partner who someone could kill. That trauma made him who he is. That's undeniable. But it's not just the trauma that keeps him alone now. It's the armor that he's built in response, the superiority complex, the need to be in control of and the master of every situation he walks into. That's the thing that poisons every relationship, every connection, every chance at love from that point onward. To love someone, you have to believe that they are a mystery. You have to believe that they are a person with a soul, metaphorical or not, that you can never fully map out. Someone who is deep and complex and human. But Rick Sanchez is too smart for his own good. Rick has solved the human condition, and in doing so, he's accidentally turned everyone he meets into an NPC in his own simulation. Rick tells the Galactic Federation agent that he didn't care about his wife, he only cared about the Szechuan sauce. While we do later learn that this was a ruse, it reveals a deeper truth. Rick views human emotions as flavoring. Think about it. How can you truly love a person when you can see the math behind every smile they give you? How can you feel a spark of connection when you know exactly which neurotransmitters are firing in their brain to produce that spark? Or how can you connect with someone who you think is less than you? Rick is a man who has looked at the source code of reality, and once you've seen the code and become the hacker, you can never look at the game the same way again, can you? He is the only real person in a universe of cardboard cutouts, and that is the loneliness that no amount of booze can numb. If you want to see the Curse of Mastery in action, take a look at episode 8 from season 4. This is a clinical demonstration of why Rick Sanchez is a god who could never lower himself to be a human. Morty wants to feel the magic of a life without consequences, so Rick gives him a save point remote, which Morty uses to find love. He meets a girl outside a coffee shop, they fall in love, and they end up getting into a terrible plane crash that leaves them stranded in the mountains. Morty doesn't press the button this time though, he chooses to call for help instead, because pressing reset would erase everything they had together. But it all comes crashing down when Jerry, of course it's Jerry, mistakes the device for a TV remote and ends up restoring Morty back to a save point where he hadn't met his girlfriend. And now he can't get her back. It was as if she had never happened. Morty ends up going back to Rick, who reveals that every time Morty reset, he's actually murdering an alternate version of himself and stealing their life. Rick forces Morty to look at the math behind this romance, the consequences behind his actions. He wants to prove that Morty's special connection was really just a series of random variables that Rick himself facilitated and that was never really important in the first place. By revealing the complexity of the mechanics, Rick kills the love. That's Rick's daily existence. He can't look at Beth, Summer, or Jerry without seeing the remote control behind their actions, and he kinda treats them that way too. So that is the kind of cruelty that defines him, and he can't really help it. Watching Rick do this to his own grandson seems monstrous until you realize that he's been doing it to his own daughter for decades. Back in Season 3, Rick confronts his daughter about her childhood. He reveals that he built her a Fruity Land because she was a scary child.
I didn't make Fruity Land to get rid of you, Beth. I did it to protect the neighborhood, not in a noble sense.
This is the tragedy. Rick thinks he's being helpful by solving his family's problems, but in doing so, he removes their humanity. Instead of seeing Beth's emotional spiral as a daughter in pain, he sees it as a glitch in the system to be fixed and solved. He offers her a clone so that she can live both lives at once. If you zoom out from the garage and look at the map of the multiverse itself, Rick's superiority complex becomes the biggest cage of them all. This brings us to the central finite curve, the ultimate expression of Rick's need for control.
Every version of us has spent every version of all of our lives in one infinite crib built around an infinite fucking baby.
Rick helped build the central finite curve alongside the other Ricks who would form the Citadel. It started as a practical tool. Rick had been hunting his wife's killer across infinity, and by walling off every other universe where a Rick wasn't the smartest being alive, he could narrow down the search. But then, something happened. Rick gave up the hunt. For a while. He abandoned the Citadel. He moved in with a replacement family and stopped looking for Rick Prime. And he never tore the wall down. I feel like that's the moment the curve, or this section of Rick's multiverse, slowly became the prison for him, because even after the mission was over temporarily, Rick was living inside a reality where he would always be the smartest person alive, and he had his family. If everyone around you is dumber than you, then they are, in effect, kind of children. Can a grown man truly find love and partnership with a child? No, geez. Recent events might lead you to believe otherwise, but no. And that is the opposite of love. When it comes to love, it's a partnership, an equal one, where you consider your partner a part of you. Love is a risk. Sometimes we connect with those who don't feel as compatible. Love is the possibility that someone might actually be better than you, or leave you, or change you, or not be as smart as you, for instance. By staying inside a universe where none of that could happen, Rick ensured that every conversation he has for the rest of eternity is a conversation with a mirror. No one is his equal. He could love no one, and no one is worthy of his love. There is one exception to the rule. One moment where Rick Sanchez almost found what he was looking for, and that exception proves the reason for his being unlovable more than any other episode. And I'm talking about Unity. Unity is a hive mind. She is billions of bodies controlled by a single consciousness. When Rick is with Unity, he really seems finally happy. But why? Why does Rick love a hive mind, but now struggles to love even his own family or find a partner? It's because Unity is the only thing big enough to be his peer, the only thing massive, intelligent, and encompassing enough. Unity is a system. She's a planetary scale entity operating at the same level of complexity as Rick's brain. When Rick talks to Unity, he feels like he's talking to another player character, let alone the fact that they can do some sick shit together. But hey, let's look at how their relationship ends. It's because Unity realizes that Rick is kind of a black hole. She breaks up with him.
I lose who I am and become part of you. Because in a strange way, you're better at what I do without even trying. Yours. And nobody else's. Unity.
This is the curse of mastery at its most lethal. Rick can't join anyone. He can only consume them. Even with a hive mind, Rick tried to be the alpha. He tried to turn Unity into a tool for his own amusement. Unity realized that to love Rick, she would have to lose herself. She would have to stop being a system and start being a satellite orbiting Rick's ego. This is the most honest moment in the series regarding Rick's love life. Rick realizes that even the one entity who could have been his equal couldn't stand to be near him. Why? Because Rick's superiority complex makes him radioactive. He's so addicted to being in control that he smothers the life out of everything he touches. He wants love, but he refuses to be an equal. And love is a game that can only be played by equals. Bird Person is the other near miss, Rick's best friend. In this episode, we see a younger Rick offer Bird Person the chance to travel the multiverse with him.
Come with me.
To somewhere nearby?
Anywhere. Everywhere.
Rick, I don't expect you to keep fighting, but this war...
Rick was heartbroken. He couldn't understand why someone would choose a limited life over being the top bird.
Why the f*** are you risking your life for that asshole? Because you love him. You do, maybe. I don't. Yeah, you're real cool. Now come help me save his life or f*** off, because I don't need you.
To Rick, Bird Person's refusal was a betrayal. But to Bird Person, Rick's offer was a death sentence. To be Rick's friend is to live in the shadow of a man who thinks your life is almost a joke. Rick can't find love because he doesn't respect the boundaries that make a person a person. Rick is a god who fundamentally is jealous of a mortal because the mortal can actually feel the weight of his own life. Rick has mastered everything, but he owns nothing. In another episode, Rick goes through a detox machine that removes everything he considers toxic from his body. The machine removed his arrogance, his drinking, his violence, and separated from him. But it also removes one more thing. In a strange way, it got rid of his love. Healthy Rick doesn't care about Morty because it considers his love for Morty to be a toxin. In his own self-evaluation, in the way that love fit into his personality, the only thing holding him back from being a pure, efficient god is his emotional attachment to his grandson. This reveals the terrifying internal logic of the mastery. Rick knows that to be the smartest man, he has to be cold towards his loved ones. He has to be logical. He views his own capacity for love as a glitch in his system. He loves Morty, but he hates himself for loving Morty, and that turns it into a toxic love. The replacement logic. This is one of the more dreadful behaviors across the seasons. When things got too real or too painful, Rick just swaps realities. When the world is Cronenberged, instead of fixing it, instead of doing the hard work of apologizing and rebuilding, Rick just finds a universe where he and Morty died and take their place. He treats people like skins in a video game. How can you love this version of Morty when you know there are a billion other versions of him? In the very start of Season 6, we find out that Rick has been living with a replacement family for years. He isn't even the original Rick of that timeline. This is one of the only reasons manifesting as a tragedy of scale. If you have infinite money, a single dollar loses its value. If Rick has infinite Mortys, infinite families, any individual one puny Morty loses their specialness. Rick is trying to find the one in a universe of the infinite. It's a mathematical impossibility. He wants the original Diane, but he's the one who invented the tool that proved there is no such thing as an original. The hunt for Rick Prime was Rick's last attempt to find meaning through hate. He thought that by killing the ultimate Rick, he would find some sort of closure, but look at the final montage of the episode. He outwitted his greatest enemy and left him dead in a hole. But look at that face. Look at that cute little face. He's still alone. Even after accomplishing his lifelong revenge quest, he never found closure. Because here's the cruelest irony of all, Rick Prime was the opposite of Rick. He was a version of Rick who never loved his family. He abandoned Diane and Beth willingly. He killed other Dianes across infinity for sport. If trauma were the reason Rick can't find love, then Rick Prime, the man with no trauma, no loss, no grief, should have been the loving one. Well, he wasn't. What these two Ricks share isn't pain, it's the belief that they are above everyone else. That's the main variable. That has always been the main variable, not the trauma per se. And Rick C-137, in becoming powerful enough to kill Rick Prime, realized that he'd spent decades becoming the very thing he was trying to destroy. So, here's my verdict. The reason Rick Sanchez can't find love isn't because the universe is just too cruel, it's because he's too good at understanding it. He's the victim of his own success. He wanted to be a god, and he achieved it. But the one thing a god can never have is appear. A god can have worshippers, a god can have enemies, a god can have tools, creations, friends perhaps, but a god cannot have an equal partner. Every time Rick tries to get close to someone, his superiority kicks in. He starts analyzing their flaws, he starts predicting their responses, he starts seeing them as a solvable puzzle. This is the curse. To Rick, the truth is always disappointing. The truth of love is just chemicals. The truth of family is just proximity and genetic coincidence. The truth of the multiverse is that everyone is replaceable and no one is unique. Rick Sanchez is a man who is cursed to be right. He's right about everything, and that's his prison. Evil Morty is the only person who truly understood Rick's reason. He realized that the only way to be real was to leave Rick's world entirely. He realized that as long as they were in a universe mastered by Rick, they were just props in Rick's story. And that's why Rick will always be alone. Because love requires you to be wrong. Love requires you to be surprised. Love requires you to look at another person and say, I don't know what you're gonna do next, but I'm here for it. Rick can't do that. He always knows what's going to happen next. He's removed the risk from life, and in doing so, he's removed the reward. In the Season 7 finale, Morty enters a fear hole that manifests your deepest fear. Morty's greatest fear turns out to be his reliance on Rick, the terror that Rick never actually needed him, that he was always replaceable. And the hole reveals a heartbreaking truth. Rick never followed Morty into the hole at all. The Rick who rescued him was the hole feeding on Morty's fears. When Morty finally climbs out, Rick is standing right where he left him. He never jumped in. For the first time, Rick didn't master the situation. He let Morty have his own experience, his own fear, and his own growth. Maybe if he also feared what he would see. It's the most loving thing Rick has ever done, and he did it by not being there. That's the ultimate irony of Rick Sanchez. Morty finding that his main fear was his reliance on Rick, and Rick allowing Morty to experience that fear alone. The irony is, Rick can only truly love people by leaving them alone and allowing them to grow by themselves. He might be the adult, and he might see other people as children or as toys, but at least that's something. And we've seen Rick grow over the course of the entire series, so he is capable of growing too. But Rick Sanchez is sentenced to live out eternity in permanent isolation in a kingdom of his own making for being pure evil, but only to himself. He was once a man who chose love over power, and the universe punished him for it. So he chose power, and all it cost him was everyone else. Do you think Rick will ever truly break his mastery loop, or is he fundamentally broken beyond repair and he'll never find love? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and for liking and subscribing, of course. And if you haven't seen it yet, I actually just broke down every unsolved mystery in Fiona and Cake after Season 2, so check that one out too.